Roundabouts, the big obstacle that many drivers in the United States can't wrap their head around. Pun not intended. So why do transportation engineers design roundabouts over intersections? How do they work? Why are they good for drivers? All these questions answered up next. I'm David, and you're watching Cityscapes. Let's get one thing sorted first. Traffic circles, rotaries, roundabouts. These are all very different things, but they only share one thing in common, being circular. Traffic circles are very small and fit within the usual boundaries of a four-way intersection, but their function is similar to a stop-controlled intersection in which you can really only travel with one car at a time. Rotaries are very large, with minimal deflection, can sometimes have very high speeds or have many lanes at a time. Rotaries tend to be around landmarks and other major symbols and are more of a stylistic choice. Roundabouts are the modern implementation of using angled deflection before entering a one-way loop that generally only has one lane or a strict lane hierarchy for entry control. Roundabouts generally are ideal for scenarios where an intersection has too many cars for a stop-controlled intersection, but not enough cars to warrant using traffic signals and many lanes just to get enough cars through to prevent backup. Starting with long-term costs, roundabouts can be cheaper than signalized intersections for medium traffic roads, as no electrical costs associated with wiring or signals or actuated signals or any kind of complicated electronics are needed. In the short term, the main concern is of the installation, but that easily pays itself off over the course of many years due to lower maintenance costs. So there are 32 possible conflict points at a four-legged intersection. This drastically increases as you add more approaches to an intersection, so think 5 or 6 streets all leading into the same point. But roundabouts, on the other hand, only have 8 conflict points, or 2 per leg. And when you raise that up to 5 legs, that's still only 10 conflict points compared to the dozens of points on a 4-legged intersection. The types of collisions at intersections are usually these angled crashes like your T-bones, where typical collisions on roundabouts are rear ends and generally are slower and lower energy, making roundabouts a lot safer. Instead of having a straight line across the intersection, cars approaching a roundabout must slightly deflect to the right, which drastically reduces their speed and serves as a kind of speed control. Cars on the approach usually must yield to the circle, and this deflection makes it easier for cars to stop and slow down, which further reduces the possibility of a crash due to speed or overspeeding. Upon entering the roundabout, there's usually only one lane. In some cases, there can be additional lanes that only provide access to a certain exit depending on where you're turning, and this is called lane hierarchy, where you enter the lane you want to be in before the intersection and you travel along it in the roundabout, knowing which way you're going to go ahead of time. Reducing the amount of confusion for drivers and making the road as predictable as possible can make driving not only easier but safer. Usually the radius of the circle is determined by the size of the typical vehicle that will traverse it. A smaller residential neighborhood, for example, will likely have a much smaller circle than the entrance to an industrial complex. In many cases, roundabouts still have a buffer that is often painted or of a different road material that is made for vehicles to occasionally overrun it. This is called the apron, and it gives larger vehicles such as trucks and buses a little bit of leniency while still making cars commit to the design radius. Thinking of pedestrians, the crossings must be placed enough distance back from the roundabout so that a car can wait between the crossing and the entry and gives enough space for them to stop for a pedestrian, but ultimately pedestrians can travel in either direction, whereas cars can only need to travel in one, so it doesn't add a big time increase for pedestrians trying to cross a road. So that's the brief on roundabouts. So you're watching Cityscapes. I'm David. Hope to see you next time.